What up, y'all? Appreciate you showing up, hanging out, listening to my dumb ass. Like and subscribe. So, this is a quick one. Seems that the trailer for Knights of the Old Republic remake, has been delisted and possibly deleted. I'm not too sure. I just glanced at the info. And I guess Tom Warren was trying to figure out why. And so they said, Tom Warren asked Disney, and then Disney said, go ask Sony. And then Sony said, well, we tend to delist stuff when the license for licensed music hasn't expired, you know, the rights to have it on. And I'm like, what? No. Okay, so backstory is, there has been turmoil with the development of this game. Now, the studio that was working on it was taken off. I don't know who's working on it now. I don't know if it's actually working. I don't know what's going on. But here's the thing. That game was supposed to be a PlayStation 5 exclusive. All the fanboys like, it's an exclusive, right? And the main kick of that was that it used to be, the original game was an Xbox 360 exclusive, right? Didn't come from PlayStation. So they felt that they had a W, whatever. That's fine. But now the game's in trouble. The game was due to garbage. It sucked. I don't know what the reason is why the game is not working out. But why aren't people saying, oh, it must be mismanagement because it's a Sony exclusive, they should have some type of say and they should have been able to take care of that, but they didn't. Is it mismanagement on Sony's part, where they couldn't, get that game working, get it right? Was it too low? The quality of the game was too low, so they said, nah, we don't want it? I mean, y'all, I don't know if y'all remember that game. It was an RPG, but it was rough. It was it was turn-based. It was weird. It was a weird game. And I remember how rough it looked, The best thing about it was the story. Revan, that was his name? Or that your character's name was Revan. Anyway, it was cool. I was like, all right, that's cool. But yeah, no. And I can see how if it was a remake, then they would have their work cut out because they would have to literally remake that game. That game is not a small game. Anyway, the point is that everything is crumbling down around Sony right now. Jim Ryan's leaving. Why is he leaving? Coincidence that all this other bad stuff is happening around him and he says, I think I better go. Pew. So he's not there when the actual building collapses where he used to stand. So he doesn't have to answer. And so they have your boy in Japan, one of the guys in Japan, and then he can't take any questions because he can't speak any English. I'm assuming, right? He always he probably can, but he's like, I'm not gonna, no. I don't understand. Maybe there was a mistranslation. They have a little bit of room to play with, if the answers go wrong. This is a bad look. Y'all don't know. I told y'all Jim Ryan was bad news. Jim Ryan was super Don Matrick. And he did all the things that for, like I said, shareholders, they love him because he's making all that money. But gamers, nope. He wasn't for the gamers. You notice they dropped that logo, that motto, whatever. No, not for the gamers. They should have said for the shareholders. PlayStation. That's what they should have done, but they didn't. But yo, it's like, I call it the Sony curse for a reason. They touch stuff and it turns to shite. Lawbreakers, hi, how you doing? Fortnite, when it first came out, it was exclusive on PlayStation. Hot trash, nobody played it. Then they did the Battle Royale, open up to everything. It's one of the biggest games. The Sony curse exists. Just look for it. You're not looking for it. You're only paying attention to, Uncharted this and God of War that. That's all you're paying attention to. But those games are going to be few and far between. And now that the boss man is gone, he set some stuff in motion, but that's not necessarily in stone, because the new person could come in and say, nah, we're not. What is that? No, we're not doing that. No, we're not doing that either. He can just he's the boss. He can do whatever he wants. He can cancel everything. He can cancel all the games of service. He won't, because it's money, potentially. So you have to realize what Sony is now. And when I talk about Sony, I talk about Microsoft, I talk about Nintendo, it really is when you get down to, entry level, or just, the business level. How are they doing their business? How are they keeping their company healthy and the industry healthy? There's two things they need to do. Not just make money for their company, because that's the easiest part, but making money for the company and also keeping the industry healthy for everyone. Not doing things like putting in practices that would harm part of the industry. That's literally what Sony's been doing this generation. And nobody's talking about it. Nobody's talking about how, they're screwing over the devs. I mean, Unity, Sony, who else? I mean, EA, when John Riccitiello was there, he tried, but that's Unity, so it's all the same. I don't want those elements in and around the industry, because like I said, it doesn't help the growth. It doesn't help sustaining the health of the industry. And I mean, I will say that video games right now is too big to fail in that way, but it can shrink. There's ebbs and flows to all these businesses and all these things. So I don't want any one company or any one CEO ruining it for all of us who love video games. That's my main kind of through line through all this, talking about video games and making fun of Sony because they're ridiculous. Like, if they get somebody in there who's straight, a gamer who knows what's up, plays games, that's a different story, But when you get to, I never really had a problem with Sean Layden or Andrew House, even though I didn't really see too much of what he did. And what was the guy before him? I don't remember his name. But those guys, even they may not have been gamers per se, but they were not gamers. Like Jim Ryan was like a not gamer. He was so much not a gamer that I was like, wow, he can't even hold the controller right. You see the picture, he's like, I'm like, what is that? What are you doing? So I'm glad he's going, because it means potentially overall a healthy industry, meaning overall a healthy PlayStation in their business and practices. Not so much, PlayStation is gonna make more money. And look, that's on them to make products that people want to buy. But raising the prices of games, raising the prices of console, they literally negatively affected this generation by doing that, because everybody else followed. Now, I know Activision was like one of the first companies to raise prices to $70, but Sony didn't have to follow suit, but they did. Xbox didn't have to follow suit, and they held on for years, like 2.5 years or whatever it was. And they followed suit because it's like, I mean, at this point, that's what it is, And that started from, I'd say, Activision, and then Sony. I mean, people say Sony was the first, but I think it was Activision. I'm not too sure. It might have been Sony, I'm not sure. But still, it's still the same sentiment, And then charging devs for crossplay, that's ridiculous. And that happened like last gen. I believe that has happened last gen, or maybe at the beginning of this gen. But regardless, that is a practice that is harmful. I mean, you can't spin that and say, it's healthy for the, no, it's not healthy for the industry. Healthy for your pocketbooks, healthy for your wallets and your shareholders, but for the industry, the people who make the games, the devs, it is not, and they had no choice, because they're like, well, what are we gonna do? Not pay it and not have crossplay and then have less people playing the game, And Sony knew this, and that's why they implemented it. That's why Unity tried to implement what they were trying to do, but people weren't having it, and they still got away with a little bit. So one of my theories is that Unity, the final deal that they they raised the revenue to 200,000 before you have to pay royalties, I guess, or whatever, and now it's a revenue share and all this stuff. And I was like, I think that was the original plan. See, this is a strategy. You have a plan, and then you create another plan that's way worse than your plan that you want to go through. You put out that worst plan, people get upset, and you say, oh, we're sorry, we heard you. Then you give them the actual plan that you wanted to implement in the first place. Everybody's happy. And that's what could have happened with Unity, possibly. Or, I mean, John Riccatello, he has statements before about charging for reloading your clip in Battlefield, so can't put it past him. This might have, the original plan might have been what he really wanted. But at the same time, they do these things to gauge what people are willing to tolerate. And people weren't willing to tolerate that. Now you look at Sony and what they do, the devs kind of had no choice in that sense. And since they had so many consoles out there, it's like, well, we're gonna make money. And so they're using their market position in an evil way to charge the devs more money, to do all these things that are antithetical to the health of the industry as a whole. And it makes me angry, because I'm like, why? And that's why I don't even want to deal with them. Maybe it's going to change. Maybe the new leadership is going to change these policies. Let's see what happens. But as far as I'm concerned, Sony can kick rocks, Unity can kick rocks. They both on the list. You know what I'm saying? And, it kind of sucks, but at the same time, this year's been crazy with all the games. It's ridiculous. With all the great games and the good news, along with the crazy bad news on Sony going downhill, going down the drain. It's just ridiculous, but whatever. I appreciate you coming and like and subscribe. Let me know in the comments below what you think about the whole Knights of the Old Republic remake and them delisting it and deleting it and all that stuff and their BS excuse. Yeah, Jim Ryan left. Jim Ryan saw the writing on it. Was like, yeah, I'm out of here, mate. He set up all these landmines and he gave nobody no warning. He's like, yeah, there might be some landmines in there. I'm leaving now. Man, Sony's about to implode and explode. If they don't come out with games to sell that console, people are gonna start migrating and moving on and saying like laterers. And they could come out with a PlayStation 5 Pro, but what's gonna happen with that is they're gonna splinter their market, and the devs are gonna be like, you know what? Nobody has this console. Nobody's buying this console. Why would we make games for this console when the install base is PS5? And that's what's gonna happen. So the games that are for the Pro, it's not even gonna be, there aren't gonna be no PS5 Pro games. It's just gonna be PS5 games that are enhanced to run 60 frames maybe. Maybe 4K with the DLSS or whatever the heck, the FSR2. So it's gonna be a waste of money. There will be nominal sales with that thing, but nobody wants it. Nobody's asking for it. It's not needed because the hardware is good enough. And if you pay attention to the last generation, the hardware was good enough for Sony to maintain. Even with the Xbox being stronger, Xbox Series X, it's Xbox One X, way better machine, but the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 4 Pro were good enough. And that's what PlayStation 5 is right now. PlayStation 5 is good enough. They don't need to do a Pro. And the Xbox is good enough too. We know what the problem is with the Xbox. It's just basically there's all these systems and tools that the devs aren't using. So it's a shame, but that's the reality of the situation. So, but anyway, I appreciate y'all hanging out on that. And I'll catch y'all on the next one. Till the wait.